Hello and welcome to From the BLN, the Burnley podcast. Something a little different this week with the Clarets off, or quite a few Clarets off on international duty. Just myself and Paul Woodhouse for this opening section. But we have got one or two special interviews, and we're going to try and shine a light on a couple of other areas of Burnley Football Club and some initiatives that are happening. And first off, we've got an interview with Rebecca Sawiuk, who is the Burnley FC Women's manager. Very, very impressive interview with her and her ambitions and things like that. And then after that, we'll have an interview with Nathan Norris, who is the foodbank manager for Burnley FC in the community, who's going to chat to us a little bit about a very special event that's happening at Turf Moor on Saturday. But before we get into that, Woody, we talked about international break. I think you'll probably share my view that the international breaks are just a little bit dull. I don't know. I don't know if you have the same view of international football as I do, but we have got a couple of, quite a few Clarets away on international duty. And as we record this, something that has been very rare for anybody in a Claret and Blue shirt, 2 wins. Last night, Thursday night, Friday night, nope, Wednesday night. There we go.
Yeah,
Finally get it right. I can never get the days right. Amin Al-Dakil, first start for Belgium, 1-0 win for the Red Devils over Serbia. And Zeki Amdouni, also a 1-0 winner, playing 70 minutes against Israel. It does show, doesn't it, that these players are, I don't want to say capable of putting in performances, because that sounds a bit rude, but it's a timely confidence boost, let's say.
You'd like to hope so, wouldn't you? And besides it, being a time little booster and putting in decent performances, it's nice that the Keel can actually manage a clean sheet. So that must be even more impressive for the lad, because Serbia are no complete pushovers, are they? So I'm assuming that he put in a reasonable shift. I didn't see it myself, but I'm assuming he put in a shift. Which is good to hear.
Yeah, you mentioned clean sheets, which have been extremely difficult to come by. I think only Iro Muric actually has a clean sheet in a Burnley shirt this year in the cup. 2 clean sheets, I think. But it is, as you say, it's good because he had a torrid time, didn't he? I mean, he's missed the last couple of games. We suspect it's been rested, as they say, but it does just kind of a bit of a fresh, I don't know, environment going out there. He'll obviously come back, hopefully, with his tail up, having made his first start for the Belgian national side. And the same for Amdouni. I mean, we talked, didn't we, about Amdouni? I think you made the point that, sometimes you forget for 40 minutes that he's even playing and then he'll do something. I know the club put out that highlight reel consisting of the single highlight of him turning away from 3 or 4 Arsenal players. But again, he's playing at international level. Israel, not big names at all on the international football circuit. But again, international football just brings a different perspective for these players, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, between obviously the Keel's clean sheet and Muric's clean sheet as well, which I'm sure people will start scrambling for yet again to get him included. It's nice to see that these young lads aren't just being recognised and being thrown in there just in dead rubbers. They're obviously going in to make a difference, etc., and performing whilst they're doing it. And so that's extremely nice to see.
Definitely. Talking of wins, one team within the Burnley FC setup that isn't struggling for wins is the women's team. They are currently top of their league, the 3rd tier of the women's pyramid, unbeaten thus far. I think they've only dropped points in 2 of their league games. We've got a chat coming up with Rebecca Sawiuk. It is really impressive, isn't it, what we've seen from the women's team over the last couple of years, since Alan Pace and ALK came in with this vision of, professionalising the women's team. We had 2 promotions on the bounce under Matt B, finished 3rd in that division last year. And this year, through to the next round of the FA Cup, the FA Women's Cup, I should say, top of the league unbeaten. It's quite refreshing, isn't it, when we sit here whinging every week about the men's team not being able to, get a point, let alone a win, to see the women's team thriving.
Exactly. No, it's definitely nice to see at least somebody in a Claret shirt or a Claret side still continuing to tear up a few blades of grass. And it sounds, from what I've seen, only highlights, etc., they look to be an exceptional little outfit quietly away. And I think we may need to watch them a little bit more closely just to remind ourselves how Burnley can actually turn a side over every now and again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you mentioned the playing style. I think, one of the things that comes through in the chat we had with Rebecca is just how they're shaping every aspect of it. I mean, she was telling us, new staff coming in, the access they've got. She has an office at the training ground. Her and her team have an office at the training ground. And the brand of football is really, really pleasing to see. It's fantastic. And, we know where you are in America. The women's game, is arguably and has been for quite a while bigger than the men's game. But we're starting to see, down at Leyland, down at the county ground at Leyland, lots and lots of young girls and boys as well being inspired to play football. I know I've got friends whose little girls, love to go and kind of watch the women play down at Leyland, and their little lads as well. It serves as something to be really aspirational, doesn't it, for young girls to be able to play in the same shirts, the same colours as their idols that perhaps their dads started watching many, many years ago.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point you make about, the women's game over here in the US. Obviously, when I moved over here in about 2004, 2006, or whatever, the predominant entry point to soccer was the women's game over here. So you'd talk to parents, etc., and the way that they got involved with football was because their daughters, as much as anybody, had got them into it. They were playing in college and university, etc. So the women's game felt a lot infinitely more advanced than it did or it does in the UK, and it just starts to feel a little bit now that we're playing catch up, and it's being taken infinitely more with infinite more respect than obviously it used to back in the day, which I think is great to see, all told.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we're still riding the crest of the wave of the Lioness's success, which is fantastic. So we've got that interview with Rebecca coming up, and then after the kind of second break, if you will, we'll also have an interview with Nathan Norris, who's the food bank manager for Burnley FC in the community. They've got an event on Saturday at Turf Moor in the fan zone with quite a few well-known TikTokers. I mean, they must be well-known because even I've heard of them. But they're aiming to collect as many donations of food parcels and meals as they can. It's going to be a kind of world record attempt. It shouldn't be up to football clubs to provide meals via food banks, but we know from the stats that have come out from the Burnley Food Bank and the Burnley FC and the Community Food Bank over the last couple of years, they really are providing such an important service for struggling families in East Lancashire. It's kind of quite heartwarming, as well as kind of maddening that football clubs have to do it, but it's heartwarming to see, isn't it?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. How disappointing it is that this has to be done, but it's also extremely heartwarming and encouraging that it is still being done, and that there are clubs within communities reaching out and being able to do this kind of thing with food banks or whatever other charities are required at the community level. So it's quite heartening.
Yeah, and this particular event is it's a guy called Max McCann, who I actually follow on TikTok. Justin would say this kind of thing is, he always terms it as not for people like him, but Max McCann, Maxi as he goes by, basically he says he wrote to every football club in the UK that he could think of, and only Burnley FC came back to him. He kind of pitched this idea of, filling a facility within the club with food. He's got a couple of his, other TikTok stars coming down, lots of other stuff going on, which we'll find out about from Nathan. But again, we are all, me, thee, Simon, Chris, and Justin, of a certain age, shall we say? Or I should put a disclaimer in that I am considerably younger than the lot
Yes,
of
you
you.
are, aren't you?
Yeah, but it shows the kind of power of TikTok and social media, and while old farts like us kind of whinge about the good old days of pen and paper and things, it does show that actually community projects and football clubs getting involved with these so-called influencers can have a real positive effect, can't it?
Yeah, I think it's something that we don't quite appreciate. Us old farts don't quite appreciate the reach and the change in media generally, with regards to both social media and YouTube, etc. And the fact that they have this reach, and it's infinitely more extensive than even good old days standard media outreach, is very impressive, and we could probably learn a thing or two from some of these buggers.
Definitely. I think that's kind of setting us up to start some kind of weird transatlantic Burnley Pendle dance craze on TikTok. That's going to become the next Gangnam Style. I could
Otherwise
just see
known as Northern Soul. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, could well be. Yeah, that'd be ideal, wouldn't it? We're going to leave it there because you don't need to listen to us two old farts, as we so eloquently put it. After the break, you'll hear from Rebecca Sawiuk, the manager of Burnley FC Women's team, and then after that, you will hear about this massive event, this world record attempt at Turf Moor from Nathan Norris. There's no debrief on Monday, of course, because we've nothing to debrief. I'm sure you probably could do with a rest from us kind of whinging about another Burnley defeat. But we will be back next Friday with our usual upbeat, cheery preview show ahead of the West Ham game. But enjoy the interviews, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much, and up the Clarets. So, Bex, do you want to just kind of run us through where the expectations were pre-season? I mean, the team finished third last year. It's been an incredible start. Where are you in your kind of expectations versus reality, do you think, this season?
Where were we at the start of the year? I think when we came together really early on in the building, players, staff, ownership, the directive here was pretty clear, and we felt everybody was aligned, and the ambition in this building is to get promoted. That's where we want to be. We want to be a championship team, and I think our start to the season has been really positive, and that's the culmination of a lot of hard work from a lot of people, players, staff, backroom team, ownership, and Lola as head of women's football here. It's a culmination of a lot of people's hard work and relentlessness behind the scenes, and I think we've put in some really good performances, and performances are going to have that impact on us picking up wins and points. And for me personally, I try really hard not to look at that league table. I'll take a look at that in Jan and start to think about where we are then.
Yeah, and you mentioned the kind of everything together, the ownership. I mean, since Alan Pace and ALK came in, it's been a big ambition of theirs to professionalise the women's team and to take it to that new level, and it's been brought into the club. I mean, everyone's got their own social media channels, but there's a real feeling that the women's team is just as important as the men's team. I can see you sat in an office at the with a tactics board behind you. Do you get that sense that it's not just lip service? There's a real ambition for this club to be one club, whether it's the men's team, the under-18s, the under-23s, the women's team. Is that the feeling from you and the girls?
Yeah, I think Alan's vision here transcends him as a person. So I can feel that through the conversations I have with his leadership team. There feels like a huge amount of alignment and interest there. So, we'll see him around the training ground. I think he's been into some of our analysis meetings this year as well, himself personally, which is amazing, right? And then we've had a couple of the owners, travel. Mike travelled all the way up to Newcastle away for that game. We've had and some of the others have come down to Leyland at home games this year. If they're not at games, they'll be knocking on the office here. So the women have got an office and a space at the men's training ground. So we're all under one roof here, and they'll knock on and they'll want to talk football. They'll want to ask how people are, how the games are, how you doing, Bex, is just general check-ins, which is amazing at that level. In terms of in this building, we get a huge amount of support from, let's say, the first team space. So Vinny himself has been in and spoken to players. He opens doors to us as staff in terms of his environment. He often has consultants in who specialize in a variety of different pockets of knowledge, and he'll introduce us to them, and then we'll have conversations about what's going on in our environment, like via extension of Vinny just being a really good person and opening the door to us and their expertise. So we get a huge amount of support there. Because I sometimes think support can be misconstrued in just like financial resource and backing, right? Which that has gradually, it's improved year on year here.
Yeah.
But the support is way beyond that. It's like genuine interest, genuine care, and genuine support. And we can all feel that in the building here. And I can feel a real integration as well between us and the academy. So we get a lot of operational support from Connor, who works in the academy here. Thea works for the academy herself in the operations department here, and she plays for us. And look, we've had coaches from the academy come down to training and support with sessions, or I've had analysts do pockets of work from the academy as well. So in this moment is very well integrated, and it is aligned. And I've worked at a few clubs, and it's not always the case. It can't be taken for granted that, and that's why I think Burnley is a really special club to be a part of.
Yeah, I was going to mention kind of your background, because I think you were last at Loughborough, which of course is for pretty much every other sport apart from football, although women's football I think is slightly different, is seen as the kind of gold standard, isn't it? I mean, I've done bits of work down there for Sports Aid, the charity, and things, and it's that kind of prestigious, almost the closest we've got to a university style system that you get in America. What made you want to leave there and come to Burnley? How did that kind of conversation come about? I mean, I can, essentially a third tier women's team. What was the attraction? Was it everything you've just mentioned, the thought that everything is starting to be integrated, the vision of the owners, the vision of Alan Pace? Just give me a bit of an insight into how those conversations went, and what kind of made you decide that this was something that you wanted to take on as a challenge.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So first and foremost, when I think about any role, especially after some of my early experiences of management and being at a variety of different clubs, the values and the infrastructure have got to align with things that I care about and think are important. And I think there have been a few examples of perhaps clubs that might say they would do something, but then when you're in the building, perhaps the lack of support is a bit more visible, or the infrastructure isn't quite what you thought it was, and the size of the project is a lot bigger than you think it is from the outside. And Loughborough, I felt, was really well aligned with me as a person and my skill set, and they strive. What does Loughborough represent? It's about excellence. It's about 1%. It's about providing young, talented human beings with an opportunity to study and be a part of a sport ecosystem. And I just thought it would be a really good fit for me. So I went there and had some really good leadership experiences, managing people, learning about high performance sport. So what are rugby doing? What is the boxing centre of excellence doing? What is Loughborough Lightning netball team doing? I had such a good exposure to a multi-sport, high-performance environment where there were lots of talented individuals. So it's not just on and off the pitch, but it was talented performance analysts or talented commercial expertise. So it was a real good experience for me there. And then the opportunity came up with Burnley, and Lola and I had a conversation, and I'd connected with Lola at a couple of the Women's National League meetings during my time when I was in post at Loughborough. And I don't think, we didn't really know much about each other in those moments. And you end up I think I sat next to her actually at a meeting, and we both go in casual clothes to these meetings. You wouldn't see us in brand kit, so, oh, you're right. Yeah. And we got on well there. Mutual respect, I think, from the off. And when she connected with me to have a conversation about this role, I think the number one contributing factor to me coming was probably Lola. Her personality, her ambition, her vision for the football club, the way she conducts herself. And I wanted to work for somebody like her. I thought I would be very well looked after here. And via extension of her is the board, the vision, the people that, Burnley employ here. And I've had a lot of positive experiences with a lot of the staff and people in the building here, loads and loads of good people. And yeah, that's how I really ended up here. And I'm glad, I'm glad. Look, I openly said this to Lola. I love my time at Loughborough and I wouldn't change a single thing about it. However, this role at Burnley was too good to turn down. Yeah. And I've enjoyed, I can honestly say, I love this job. And I think that's pretty rare.
Yeah, definitely. I think we had Lola on the podcast earlier in the year, and my colleague Simon interviewed her, and we kind of sat around listening to the transcript, listening to the tape afterwards, and we were just impressed. Every time you hear her speak, her vision is fantastic, and I fully get that why you would want to align with a vision like that. Now, you mentioned the kind of Loughborough experience and kind of leaning on or leaning into, I should say, kind of, what's the boxing centre of excellence doing, what the netball team doing. Mm. Do you think that's kind of how a club like Burnley will build the women's side of the game? I mean, I think, in terms of men's football as we know it, we've had analysts coming out of our ears for years and years and years. And some managers will look outside. I know Sean Dyche, the former Burnley boss, when he was doing his coaching, went and studied the boat race team at Cambridge, I think it was. So he got outside his comfort zone. But it feels like within the women's game, there's so much more openness to looking beyond. And I guess, I know Vincent Kompany does that, and he looks beyond and things like that. Do you think that's important for the development of the women's game, not just in Burnley, but across the UK as we try and grow the sport to a level where, it's at now, but beyond that?
Yeah, I think so. I think generally speaking, there's a women's football community and there's a good network of people that are rooting for each other to do well. So, for example, in this league, I'll keep in contact with a number of different managers in the north, and we'll have regular phone calls and, week in, week out, which is great. Aside to that, there's a lot we are learning every day from the boys' academy here, or the men's team, the staff set, the expertise that we've got in this building, right? And then beyond that, we've got the multi-sport layers. So I think one of the things that both Lola and I are really passionate about is creating a high-performance environment here at Burnley. We're realistic and we have to be patient, and it's got to be gradual. I think it's very difficult to overnight go from amateur to part-time to hybrid to full-time. And probably the best example of a club that's done that in the last 5 years is Southampton Women. I thought that their strategic plan for the progress and sustainability of that model has been exceptional, and they're flying in the championship right now. And we want to pull from good practice like that in the women's game and help grow this project into a high performance space. And we've recruited a lot of staff this year since, I've been here. I've got 2 new coaching assistants that help me on the grass. So there's 3 of us. We've got a new goalkeeping coach. We've just appointed a performance analyst. We're looking to recruit, operations executive. We're looking to put in S&C. We've got a psychologist. We've got a nutritionist. And all of this infrastructure just takes a long time to build. But ultimately, it will give us that high performance space that we want here. And that's attributed down to the level of investment and backing that we have. And it enables us to grow into those pockets. And I think when we get our staffing set, we can then look to open out and go and educate ourselves from multi-sports areas and what we can learn from good practice in other disciplines, because that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to be the best version of ourselves, and that definitely for me is looking outside of football and thinking very differently about it, because we often think about football in a very traditional way. So absolutely, diversity is key.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of an influx of staff. There's also been an influx of players, and it feels like, some of the signings that are coming in, some of the kind of dual registrations with Man City and things like that, it feels like you've got a real vision of, a bit like Vinny's done, bringing in kind of certain types of players who are going to be good around the group, got a bit of experience perhaps at a higher level as well. What kind of, is, I don't want to say, is it job done in terms of the playing squad? I'm guessing you're always looking for opportunities, but do you see it as kind of a evolution rather than revolution when it comes to the playing side of the team?
Yeah, I think so. I think this has been a project in terms of ascendancy for a number of years, right? So Matt B did a great job. I think he got back-to-back promotions, right? Yeah. So incredible job. Started off the journey for this football club. And then Jono and Jay equally moved it forward in their own way, in terms of playing style or players or pockets of knowledge that they had from the game that I can feel now has been, that the football club now has benefited from having both of those individuals here. And now I'm here and work with Lola. I would say we have conversations about our squad and B recruitment probably weekly, and that's the reality. So you're always looking at who do we have, who's doing well, who needs minutes, who might benefit from a loan, who is currently on loan and doing well. Do we need to look at the footage? Do we need to touch base with that manager who's overseeing the development in that space? But in terms of our recruitment, so I've got here with Kirsty Lavelle is a top goalkeeper that came in the summer and is a fantastic professional. Drives and raise standards weekly here. Then we brought in Michaela Wildgoose, Northern Ireland under-19 international, just turned 18. So a huge, bright future can grow with us. Gracie Pryor from Man City is just one of the most exciting up-and-coming talents in the country. Yeah. She will play for England, I think, and she will play for Man City first team. That's how good she is. Then we've got well, there's a bit of an exclusive, but signed Naomi Hartley. So we brought her in from Chef. She's ex-Man United. So that will come out probably in the next couple of weeks, but she's coming back from an injury. And I think she's played 50 or 60 times in the championship already at 21. Yeah. So fantastic person and player. Alethea Paul probably needs no introduction to Burnley fans. Great person, club captain here, and is leading the team on and off the pitch in an exemplary way. I think she started every game for me. Yeah. 2 opposition player of the games, and I think she's got 2 goals to her name already this year from fullback, which is pretty impressive. We signed Lois Marley, England under-19s. Yeah. We got Isabel Reedford from Man United, Rima Lord-Mears from Chef, Brenna McPartland signed from Sunderland, a fantastic player who, for me, is just getting better and better each week. And I think she's got to be odds on for probably a national call-up soon. So probably watch that space, I think. But then we're seeing, like alongside in the top line there. So I'm looking like Lizzie, Leah, Amaya, Kelly, Elford, Priestley are all like Burnley mainstays from last season. And I'm going... Amy Kelly, as an example, has really showed a huge amount of maturity and growth this year and is absolutely flying. And same for someone like Jeremiah Coleman-Evans, a bit of a stop last season, and this season is just confident and flying and adding so much value. And then you've got, Leah Embley, homegrown Burnley girl, who is just a dream to work with, quite frankly. The most professional, hardworking person, always does extras, always is in for one-to-ones, is always in early, is always the first one in the gym. You couldn't ask for a better human being to have in the building. So we are really lucky with this squad that we've got here.
So obviously the ambition is to be a championship club. We've just been talking there. You've rattled off the names of players, some young players who you feel will really go on and kind of play for the national teams at various levels. Do you think that you part of it is getting promotion, but also part of it is building a reputation as a club where Super League teams, if touch wood, when we get into the championship, may then look at Burnley as a really good developing ground for some of their young players that are just on the fringe, who are probably ready for championship football but not Super League football yet. Do you see that as another facet of what you're trying to do, build Burnley or build a reputation of Burnley as a place where young girls can come and develop and then perhaps go back to their parent clubs and go on and play for the first team, go on and play for their international teams and things like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the things we talk about in this building is, being the best version of you. So we're currently going through a process where every player here gets a personal development plan. And we're starting to create those. So there's like the psychology piece, the nutrition piece, your performance analysis, statistical profile, your tech, your tack. And it takes time to develop. Well, what does that look like linked to the DNA? And we had to develop a way of playing here. And anyone who's seen us play this year knows our possession-based play is probably the best in the league. If you're coming here, we're going to have a lot of the ball. And, teams have come off this year and gone, wow, not only was that physically hard, it was mentally hard, like to keep concentration for 90 minutes against you guys. So with those plans, we're able to support players individually as part of the team here. And I think myself, Robbo and Tom pride ourselves on being good coaches and good developers. We've all worked with senior players, but equally I've worked in those youth development spaces. So I'd back us to do both of those things well. We've got a real variety of experience and know-how, and our skill sets complement each other really well. And I think getting in Lois and Gracie from Man City and Bell from United is probably a testament to say, like, it's already happening. Do you know the brand and what those clubs see in us to, because ultimately we're entrusted to develop their best young talents, their brightest players of the future. And look, both Jane Ludlow and Niels, the sporting director at Man City, came down. So they, in order to have a good look at us, and Ash as well from City, come down for the day, spent time with staff. They were in the analysis meetings. They were on the pitch. They were getting, so that we've been fully vetted, for want of a better way of thinking about it, because it has to be right for both. They've got to trust us to develop those players and vice versa. So that, I think it's already happening. But when we get to the championship, and it is a when, it's not an if. I don't feel that energy here. I just think it's a matter of time now. Clubs will give us a different type of player. It will be it'll just open the door to a more, probably a more technically proficient footballer, and maybe somebody who's at a slightly different stage in their development journey. But I think the facilities we have here at the training ground and the support staff will mean that players do want to come here, because yes, you're going to play, but B, you'll leave better than when you entered this building. And that's what we want to be known for. We want to actually develop players and make them better. And if you left here and you went on and got a pro at a championship club or a Super League club, that's job done, really. Or if somebody we got Maria Francis Jones from Chef in the summer, and she got her first ever Wales senior call-up. So she went with the senior team, didn't she? About 2 weeks ago. So that's what we want to be known for, is like helping players achieve their goals and dreams, and that's as good as, to me, as winning the league.
Yeah, definitely. No, I 100% agree on that. You mentioned obviously Leyland. I think there's a little bit of obviously an ambition to bring the team closer to Burnley, and I know it's kind of something that is being discussed and things like that. And there's no easy fix. Is there a frustration that perhaps being out in Leyland restricts the kind of impact you can have on young girls, children? I know kind of lots of young girls and parents who take their girls to watch you in Leyland, but is there a slight frustration? I'm not being critical of the club here, because it's out of their control, that there's not a facility closer where people could come down and see what is a brilliant brand of football. I watch quite a few of the bits on games on TikTok and things like that, and there is a really exciting brand of football that will inspire girls. Is there a bit of a frustration that you are playing out in Leyland and there's not a chance to kind of get down Burnley and play somewhere a bit closer?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd use the word frustration. So I would say when we've been to Leyland, the facility is excellent. So the spaces that we have available for match briefings, the changing rooms, the staff, the food, pitch surface is already of an excellent level. So that's the benefit of being there. The trade-off with that decision is it's not in Burnley, right? And when I look into the crowds and I see the young girls and boys getting all the players' autographs and jumping up and down and cheering them, I would love more people from Burnley to be able to have that experience. I'd love the players to be able to engage with the community of Burnley a little more, because when I go out and I speak to people in the town or go into the schools, I can feel the warmth from the people of Burnley. So that's the bit that is a little bit sad, is just that we cannot connect with the town as much as we all want to, because I know, I'll drive in and the security guards here are so passionate about Burnley Women. So they want to know, how did we do? Or I know this, or I saw this game, or, we'll get a text from Kev, our facilities manager. I'm bringing my daughter today, and, everyone's bought in and they want to come. And I think if we found a facility that had Leyland's excellent standards in Burnley, or we were able to invest in something, which that's not a short-term thing. That would have to be something over the next 5 years, if we're being realistic. That would just mean that people could access and be a part of it in terms of that real community feel and inspiring the next generation of footballers, or making Burnley Town proud, which I think, and I would like to hope that the people of Burnley feel that we are, and they know how much we value and appreciate them and their support. And I hope we are doing them proud. And that's why I'd love for them to be able to connect with us a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it goes without saying, I think, everybody I see on social media is talking about the success you're having this season, the success we had last season. You mentioned Matt and his kind of 2 promotion. I think there's been that that real kind of progression in that. Final question before I let you go, because I know you've got to get out on the grass. We obviously had the game at Turf Moor. The first time we had a game at Turf Moor, incredible turnout. Yeah. I'm not expecting you to give anything away, but nod, wink, wink. Is there going to be another Turf Moor game this season, do we think?
Honestly, I can't answer that with any certainty. But what I would be able to speak to is if there is an opportunity to do that, like fixture scheduling allow, and if a number of other things line up. I know how important that day was for lots of people. And I think walking around the offices at Turf Moor and understanding what that game and that opportunity meant for women in the building and women at the football club, and so many years of hard work went into that one day, by the way. I'm sure people would replicate that if we felt we could. So I can't say with any certainty like December the 10th is booked in and signed off, because we don't have any hard dates in the diary. But it is something that is spoken about a lot in terms of internal conversations and meetings. And I'd like to think if there was an opportunity to do that, we would move to do it. But as with all of these things, Turf Moor is hosts a lot of games for Vinny and the men's team in this moment, and some of the cup games for some of the academy teams. So it's we'll wait and see, eh?
Keep his fingers crossed. Well, wish you all the very best. So your next game's against Alnwick Town Ladies a week on Sunday, 26th of November, back at the county ground. Thank you so much for joining us, Bex. It's been a real pleasure. And we'll keep banging that drum, and hopefully we'll see you at Turf Moor before the end of the season.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you very much to Rebecca for taking some time to speak to us there. And don't forget, if you want to see the women's team in action, your next chance is a week on Sunday, November 26th, down at Leyland, when they're taking on Alnwick Town Ladies in the next round of the Cup. I'm delighted now to say we've got Nathan Norris with us. Nathan is the food bank manager for Burnley FC in the community, and he's joined us to talk about a really special event that's happening at Turf Moor tomorrow. Nathan, we've got a world record attempt on his hands tomorrow, aren't we? Featuring a fairly famous TikTok influencer. And I say that as somebody who actually knows who he is. And I'm not really a TikTok kind of guy. But do you want to just tell us what's going on at Turf Moor on Saturday?
So we've got the world record attempt. So it's quite a big ask. We know that people are struggling this time of year. And that's why we're sort of doing this as well. Demand through the food bank has gone through the roof, and it will continue to do that. So tomorrow is going to be absolutely amazing. We've got loads of stuff going on, different activities for children. So it's a family day, face painting. We've got other services there as well who can support. So even though it's a food donation event, if there's people who want a bit more information on what we do as a charity, the food bank, the community grocery stuff that we do down in town, it's an information day as well. But ultimately, it's about getting as much food as possible within one day. And that's kind of where Max came in and suggested this amazing event.
Yeah, definitely. Max McCann, who's he goes under Maxi, doesn't he? And I think he does very, very funny cookery videos. He's always knocking stuff over on TikTok. But it's really interesting how you got involved with him, because we were just talking off air. He wrote to every football club he could think of, which, is a hell of a lot of football clubs. Yeah. And only Burnley FC in the community answered his call. I guess, we know how important Burnley FC in the community is and has been for years. But I guess for you, it's just such a great opportunity to link in with somebody who has massive social reach and can really kind of push an event like this.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't actually, this wasn't the original plan, was to do a big family day. So that when Max approached us, he wanted to, so I'll bring it back to what Max normally does down south. He has his own like spices and season pots that you'll see in a lot of his videos. And what he does for every pot sold online or in some of his stores down south, he donates a bag of food to charity. And that model works really well. But after talking to Max and really diving into what he does and what we do, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to do something different. So one of the ideas that he came up with was the event. But he's also created a Burnley seasoning. I don't know if you've seen that on his socials. So
I've not seen that yet. No.
Yeah, so it's on his TikTok and some of the other social platforms. So it's a classic claret pie mix that he's created. So he's going to use that product sort of in his cooking videos. He wants to approach some of the restaurants in Burnley, put specials on. But what he's doing for us this time, because it's our own season pot, he wants to. He's going to donate 38% from every pot will go into the food bank. And that's why I said about it goes beyond tomorrow. He wants us to be sort of stable financially so that we won't need to rely on donations. And that money coming through the season pots will then be put towards buying food that we currently buy with amazing support from Burnley Council, but we don't want to rely on funding. That's kind of the aim. So Max is thinking of ways that we can just do things a little bit different. And obviously the season pots are really exciting. The football club has said we'll put them in the club shop, which is huge for us. And they'll go online. We've had quite a big support from JJ with the event and the season pot. So yeah, it's all coming together. So, but a lot different than what we originally had planned.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, I mean, we were discussing this earlier in the podcast, me and Woody. It's kind of a source for me of kind of frustration that a football club has to have a food bank in the 21st century. But the amount of people you've helped, and I saw some stats when we were in lockdown and when we were talking about school meals and free school meals for children, the amount of people you reach across East Lancashire, I should say, and the amount of people you help is huge, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, last year, if we kind of total up all the numbers, we give enough food out to feed 50,000 people last year, which, wow, if you look at the population of Burnley, that's a lot of people. And then this year, what we are now, we're more than just a food bank. We've kind of developed we've got an amazing team. We've gone from a food bank to we're a distribution centre as well. So we supply food to all the other food-related food banks, charities within Burnley, Pendle and Padiham. And at the moment, I think we're up to about 5,000 plus parcels this year alone that we've given out. But in terms of distribution numbers, we're doing like 2,500 people a week. So it's a lot. A lot of people need our support, but we're never in a position to say no, and that's why these donations are so important.
Yeah, and I know the supporters club were involved. The various supporters clubs were involved with the donations as well, weren't they? I mean, it's been a real kind of, we talk a lot about the Clarets family, and of course everything that's happening with Lyle Foster at the minute, and the Clarets family coming round to support him. But it must be really heartening for you to kind of see the amount of support that, not just agencies like Burnley Council and people like Max, but the actual wider Burnley Clarets family is also willing to kind of muck in, if you will, aren't they?
They are. I mean, Burnley's such a big football town, as we well know, and I think that the badge really gives that driving force behind it, and everybody wants to work with the charity. That's kind of over the last sort of few years, we've really developed relationships with the wider community, and really we're right at the forefront with that now, and we work closely with a lot of other services. It's not just Burnley FC in the community; it's the wider community as well. So that it's pivotal that we continue to work with the public. Are just absolutely amazing. Burnley's a time where there's areas of deprivation that people do struggle, but the support that we get from everybody in Burnley is just absolutely amazing. I can't sort of put it into too many words how proud I am of the town and sort of the charity that obviously I represent. And yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And just give us a bit of a flavour, no pun intended, of what's going on tomorrow from a foodie point of view. You're going to make everybody really hungry when they're listening to this at lunchtime. But there's a variety of food stalls, and you mentioned kind of other things that are happening as well as kind of the record attempt. What kind of grub can we get our hands on Saturday down at the Turf?
Max is doing some cooking demonstrations, so he's really looking forward to that. That was one of the things that I said you've got to do. So I think he's going to do some live TikToks, some cooking demonstrations. We've been given a demonstration van by Burnley Leisure, so that obviously a massive thank you to them. We can do that tomorrow. But then we've got an ice cream van there as well. Royd Ices, so they've come down. They're going to do some bit of cold, but everyone's a good ice cream.
Everyone loves an ice cream, of course they do.
I know, yeah. So hopefully the sun's out. So and then we've got Chicken Boys, who are based over sort of Hebden Bridge way. So they're absolutely fantastic. Fresh chicken burgers, halloumi burgers. They've come on board to support the event, which again, a massive thank you to them. So we've got a couple of different things like that, and then off the inside we've got the face painting. There's different stalls in there. They can get some information. So like we're saying off air, if anyone who comes down who can't donate because they're struggling, they want a little bit more information about what we do as a food bank or our partners in the building that we have now down in the town centre called Downtown, that has a community grocery. So that basically is something to bridge the gap between a food bank and your normal shop. So it's £5 membership a year, and then you can shop 5 times a week, £5 shop, and you get 12 items. So that's just to support people who have a little bit of money that can kind of put to. They'll be there as well tomorrow. So if you want to get more information on that, please have a chat with the guys. They're an amazing team. And then we'll have our charity staff there as well to support. And we've got loads with singers, and we've got absolutely everything going on tomorrow. And then me and Max are going down to the Christmas light switch on as well. So it's quite exciting.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So a big day.
Definitely. Well, we wish you all the very best. And to be honest, there's nothing else to do during an international break. Let's be honest, England play on Friday. So you've got nothing to do on a Saturday. So you may as well go down to Turf Moor. We love going down to Turf Moor, into the fan zone, and have a look what's going on. And if you can donate, we know just how much that will mean to people across Burnley and East Lancashire. So thank you so much, Nathan, for coming on, and all the very best with it. I wish you all the best, and perhaps we'll catch up later in the season and find out about some of the other activities you're
not a
doing.
problem. No, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.